Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, May 23rd. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun. Welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Show with...
Hi, everybody. It's Andrew Plank with the Vibe Real Estate Group and LePage.
And Jen Lowe, mortgage broker with DLC Modern Mortgage Group.
How's it going, everybody?
It's going. It's going.
Good.
Yeah. Is it raining? Is it sunny? Is it raining? Is it sunny?
It's beautiful today.
Yeah. I got people doing roofing for me today and over the last week. So they're picking and choosing their days over here for sure.
I'm waiting to be invited over to your house, Andrew.
Yeah, you're both invited. Let's do it. We'll host the next show and live and in person.
So we had a long weekend, and last weekend you mentioned that you were listing a character home. How did that go? Character home reno or whatever you call it.
It was a character conversion. So this is an older character home that's been converted to 4 suites and is strata. So it's condo, but not. I mean, So it was slow, but we had a really busy open house. So slow for showings, really good open house. Number of people came through the open house and just, you could tell they fell in love with it. We had 3 parties quite interested. 1 wrote an offer and we are under contract.
Yay. That's a very American thing to say. We are under contract.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, I just say it fine. We usually say we have an accepted offer.
Yeah, we can say that. I like to do things a little different.
So
I didn't realize it was an American way to say it.
I don't know. I know, don't be sensitive. I'm not being picky. I'm just curious. Okay. So
sensitive me.
Well, oh, no. The mortgage rates.
I'm losing audio a bit. Jen, are you finding audio's kicking in and out, or is it just me? I'm hearing Jane kick in and out of audio.
Okay.
Are you hearing okay? No, I'm not hearing you either.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Jen?
Now I can. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Let's start over again. Welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Show. It is May 23rd. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun, and this is Andrew Plank with the Vibe Real Estate Group and Jen Lowe with DLC Modern Mortgage Group. Okay.
Good morning.
So we had a long weekend. Things tend to change on the long weekend. I found it very active. How about you guys?
Yeah.
Very busy. Yeah. It's picked up for sure.
I was busy on the long weekend. It did not feel like a long weekend for me. Did not feel like, I mean, we never have weekends anyway.
Right. If anybody ever asked you, I want to become a realtor, say, do you want to have a life?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find that being a mortgage broker, Jen, or are you able to have a life?
I do try and limit my weekends for family time as much as possible. But if there's, someone that's looking to make an offer or something like that, I'm always available, as you both know.
Yes.
I'll be available if needed.
You are very available. But it's also understood when, if you don't get back right away to weekend, whatever, it's to be expected. Like, not to be expected, but it would be nice if
things were close.
Yeah, exactly. There's only so much you can do anyway.
Okay, so let's talk about today's topic, which is what is a subject to sale offer? Because it has been very busy. I am curious to see, are you guys looking at subject to sale offers? I've got a client writing one today. I'm just curious when you use them and why. So, but first, you guys may know somebody who may be interested in this topic. Please ask them to subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear what they have to say about this topic. So don't forget to
Yeah.
comment.
Or share
And
it with someone who is considering selling or is on the fence about selling and isn't sure what process to do around that.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so Andrew, you want to take off our brand new stats we have?
Okay, so we're in this transition period between two different formats for the stats. As you can see, the real estate board has updated the way they look. I kind of like the old way better, but anyway. New listings. Okay, I'm not wearing my glasses. 332 new listings in the last week. 175 properties went pending. 136 price decreases, 8 price increases. Let's go down to 39 expireds and 5 withdrawn. So compared to the week before, 332 this week, 394 the week before for new listings. 175 pendings this week, 193 last week, so down just a little bit. 136 price decreases this week versus 138, like pretty much right on par there. Do they say that in the States too? There were 39 expired and 32 expired last week.
So I just worked out the percentage because we had less listings and similar sales. We went from 49 to 52% list to sale ratio, which is good for sellers.
Mm-hmm. I'm still positive for sellers. This
yeah.
Is, yeah.
Well, we just sold a condo and we got an offer on day one. Actually, we've sold a couple of places where we priced it where we thought was the market value. We really did in-depth analysis and both sold in one day. So if you price it properly, they will come.
Yeah, that is it's a hard one. I've dealt with some clients, not dealt with, but, I had some clients not too distant past where we sold their place in one day. And then they were, of course, questioning whether or not we priced it too low. I had agents calling me and saying, wow, you did really good in that building. You got a really good price for that unit. And yet, because it sold in one day, they were questioning whether or not they'd undersold it.
Yeah. And so almost, at the 3-week mark, people get pretty desperate. But if it sells within the first week, there is that question.
Yeah. If you're doing your job right and you're really tuned into the market and there's enough buyers out there to support it, then a property will sell in the first, couple of weeks. If you're off base or there's just not a large pool of buyers for the property, it will stick around. So it's important to know the difference between whether or not you're a problem with price or a problem with the pool of buyers. But as I've had some recent conversations with my team partner, it's always about price at the end of the day.
Just like it's always about your mortgage payment. How much is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
And they look at it per month, right? What they can afford per month.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So over the past week, we've had quite a busy week. 464 sales month to date as of Tuesday. And that's compared to 775 for the month of May in 2023, but we're up from 262 last week. So that's good. New listings for the month of May this year so far are 1,131, and that's lower than last year at 1,356. And active listings were at 3,272. That's, oh my God, that's high, very high. I actually looked at the BC stats, and the last time we were this high was in May of, early 2020, when we had a glut, when the market was just kind of rebounding after COVID.
And remember, early 2020 was starting to pick up, but still slow. And I guess it was early 2020 would have been, I think, slow through the 90s. And then it was the early 2020s that things started to pick up. So the inventory had built up and up and up and up, but then it turned on a dime.
Yeah. So people, whenever they ask me about pricing, I'm reverberating on somebody's, can you, maybe I need to turn down my volume. Anyway, I always say, the one thing we learned from COVID is you don't choose the price until the day you list the property. Right?
Mhm.
Okay. Anyway. Okay, Jen, what's happening?
Well, the inflation numbers came in for April, and they're 2.7%, which was to be expected. Nothing's really happened on the fixed rates. No changes there. But definitely with inflation being at 2.7%, I pulled up inflation peaked at 8.1% in June of 2022. So
Wow.
it has come down a lot, and it's time for rates to start coming down. Please. So given where the inflation numbers have come in at, it's definitely looking positive for seeing a rate drop in June, and the next time Bank of Canada meets is June 5th.
Okay.
And
That would
who,
be nice.
Fingers crossed.
what are
I-
we seeing for a fixed rate right now?
Fixed rates, 5-year fixed rate, we do have a few lenders that are offering 4.74 to 4.84. And then lots of people are looking at that 3-year term, which is around 5.24-ish percent.
Okay. I'm hearing that
What
banks are looking for longer for approvals. I've heard of an example of one special deal. One of the in-house mortgage brokers at LePage was mentioning a special deal with one lender, but they're looking for 30 days for approval.
Yes. Yeah, that would be the 4.74 lender.
Yeah.
That they are the lowest right now, and it's a credit union. And for if it's a conventional purchase, so if you don't have less than 20% down, they want literally 30 days right now.
Wow.
Even like their internal, I've got a colleague that works for this credit union, and she says it's just crazy.
Yeah, their desk must be
manpower.
so full of applications.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
I've got I've got one property under contract where they asked for an extension for financing simply because, again, the lender was requiring anybody that brings an offer to their desk to have the 10 business days, and they won't consider it unless it's got that.
Right.
So we needed to add that in if we wanted to continue working with that buyer.
And just to confirm, 10 business days is 14 days, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's a long time for a seller to have a house off the market.
Mm-hmm. It's always a balancing act, right? Like, is it going to get to sold? And if it's looking risky, then you're really tying your property up and losing the key, most important marketing time at the beginning of the listing. So,
yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about subject to sale offers. With the market more balanced than it has been in a long time, we have some clients who are looking to write subject to sale. So that means they can't own two properties at the same time. So we're looking at from the buyer and seller perspective. And Andrew, do you want to go over your slide first and just talk about that?
Sure. So there's maybe a question of whether a subject to sale offer is even the right thing to do at that time. And based on your financial position and what the market is, you might want to make some different decisions. So whether or not you're doing subject to sale or not is a key question, because there are some negatives to doing it. So if you're in a seller's market, then there's less risk in buying first. If things remain stable and that seller's market continues to build, you're going to buy first, and then further down the road, your property will probably be worth more money than it was the day you bought, which means you're pocketing more of the difference between the buy and the sell. So it's, if you're in a seller's market, start with a transaction that will take the most amount of time. So if you are in a seller's market, you would want to buy first, since finding that home to purchase will likely take more time than it will to sell. That's another key piece in a seller's market. It can be hard to find the right property. If you're in a buyer's market, then you may want to sell first and then buy, because of course you're still going to have lots of selection when it comes time to buy, and getting your home sold and negotiating a long closing will give you time. If you're able to write a subject to sale offer, and this is the one where what we're going to be talking about today, that really is market dependent and property dependent. But a subject to sale offer is in some ways the best of both worlds. It allows you to purchase a home on the condition that you are able to sell your own. The caveat is not all sellers will accept a subject to sale offer. In a buyer's market, though, they are more likely to do that. And if you can actually afford 2 properties, it's not a bad plan to buy first. And then you've at leisure to sell your home and wait for best price. And if you have a place to stay in the interim, you also could sell your home first, have the money in hand, and then go buy. The only risks to some of these scenarios is if there's a change in market where or economy where the logic of doing that sort of shifts. But if things are looking pretty stable and you're not doing a really wide timeline between buy and sell, those are some things you might want to consider. But today we're specifically talking about the scenario where the subject to sale offer makes sense. So let's talk about that.
Okay, so the pro of from a buyer perspective of doing a subject to sale is that you know the price that you'll be paying. The con is that when you go to list your property, you'll be more motivated to take less money for your home. So what I'm saying is the more higher you are motivated, the more likely you are to take less when you go to sell your home.
I would change that word motivated as well, or add that word stressed.
Yeah.
Because it's really it's very stressful when you're under the gun to sell your home. So.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, I had a client who wrote a subject to sale offer earlier this year. And when we first listed their property, they were going out and looking at a ton of properties. And I was like, just hold on. And they were saying, well, I want to do the research and all this stuff. And then it ended up, they were kind of rolling along this roller coaster because they kept anticipating that their house would sell and then going and preemptively looking, and then it would fall, like nothing would happen. And this is just because we've been in an adjusting market. So one of the pro of a subject to sale is knowing where you're going, but the con is that somebody else can bump your offer, which ended up happening. Mm-hmm. And then the other is when you write a subject to sale, so usually you write about 3 months out, and then you have the sale of your house happening about 6 weeks out. So you say, I'm going to sell my house in 6 weeks. I'm going to move in 3 months. So you have a deadline. And what that does is gives the buyer a lot of focus and exactly what you were saying is it also gives them a lot of stress. But you may not sell your house in time. So that's hard.
Yeah, you've done all that work. And some people will only list their home when they find the right home for them. And so they're looking and looking and looking for that perfect home, their forever home, the home they fall in love with, but they can't afford it unless their home is sold. They make an offer subject to sale, tie up that property. But now they're behind the 8 ball because they don't have their actual home sold. So now they've got to scramble to get their home on market. The only reason they're listing to sell is to buy that one home. And then they get bumped. This is a time clause we're talking about, folks, and we'll get into the weeds on that soon. But they get bumped and they're not able to buy it. Or they have to make a decision of whether or not they remove the time clause and buy it anyway. And then that's the con. The last con Jane was going to mention was you may end up owning 2 homes. But if they choose, if that's just not palatable, too stressful, they're going to lose that home. They'll probably take their home back off the market, go back to square one. And then you just keep repeating that cycle. And it's not a really great cycle.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to trust in the process and get your house on the market. And at the same time, so you have your foot on the gas and the other one on the brake, and you're like trying to get it going. Whoop, let's go.
Yeah. Jen?
Yeah, Jen?
I find with selling clients that sell first, it's just a smoother transaction. They know the exact amount of money that they have to put down, it's definitely less stressful, I find.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Oh, we have more.
Uh,
Oh, from the seller's perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take
So
this
from
one.
this, go ahead.
Okay. So from the seller's perspective, pros are you will more likely receive close to your asking price. You will have a closing date that you've chosen. You will have a deadline in which to sell your home. So you have some focus. So this is from the seller perspective, that is the person selling. Wait a sec, from the seller's perspective.
Yep. So when you're
Trying to understand the deadline in which to sell your home.
so like in weeks that your house will be sold if the buyer gets their property sold. But however, you're dependent on third party buying your buyer's property. So you're creating a bit of a daisy chain.
Right.
So you have a deadline of 6 weeks. Everybody's expecting things to go through. You start making plans, which are good. And in a fast market, it's great, but it really is kind of a non-offer because you're dependent on this third party
Right.
to purchase the buyer of your property's home. You're also less likely to get showings because people do say now, I'd like to show your property if you have no offers on it.
Yeah. And not as much as let's talk about before we get into this, let's talk about that time clause, subject to sale clause, because that's kind of pivotal in how what we're talking about, where another buyer could come in and buy this home, and some people may not understand that. A clean subject to sale offer, which no seller will accept, is going to be, I will buy your home if I can sell my home by August. But if you don't include what we call a time clause in there as a seller to protect you, then you're stuck waiting till August to find out if your buyers have sold their home, and they may be out to lunch on their pricing, or they may have a property that's not very saleable, and you would be off market for quite some time. So typically there's something called a time clause, subject to sale, a time clause incorporated into that offer. And that time clause allows the seller to consider other offers, and they can take other offers while they're still subject to the sale of that home. Those other
Right.
offers would go through the process of condition removal generally, other than subject to the first offer falling apart. But once that offer is, free and clear and sort of unconditional except for all that, then the seller has the right to come back to the first buyer, the one who is trying to sell their home, and say to them, look, now we have someone else who wants this home and is willing to take it. You have an option to drop your subject to sale offer and just agree to buy my house, or you have to step out of the way. And you've got 24 hours or 48 hours or 72 hours, hence the name time clause, to make that decision. Go.
And so what happens is when I always laugh when I see that it's a subject to sale with a 48-hour time clause. So here's why a buyer may not want to show a house or be shown a house with a subject to sale offer. Is buyer A has a property tied up with a time clause, and buyer B comes in and says, I want to write an offer on this place, and I have to push A out of the way, but I have to spend all the money on the inspections. So what we do as an agent is we ask the listing agent, how long has this offer been in place?
Mm-hmm.
How is the first buyer's property listed? Is it listed well? Are they getting many showings? And so as a listing agent, I would be asking for updates from buyer A, and then I can report to buyer B's agent. Buyer B then does their due diligence, and they're basically unconditional, as Andrew said, subject to the seller being released from the first offer. And so they send a form, they go, okay, seller, give notice to buyer A and buyer A says, you know what, I'm going to go for it. Sorry, buyer B, too bad, so sad. And then buyer B spent all this money. That's
Yeah.
where it's hard for buyer
And they
B.
go for it where they wrote subject to sale for their own comfort, but they really could have come up with funding, or they really strongly believe that this is the right property for them, and now they're going to put more pressure on themselves to sell, maybe take a lower price, but they're going to make sure that they get the money at the end of the day. They're going to look for alternative lending. They're going to figure it out. They've had time now because they've been subject to sale for some time to understand what the chances of their own home selling is, and what their own financial scenario is, and just how much they like that home. So the long and short of it again is, and that first con is, you will receive less showings for your home if you receive a subject to sale offer. I highly encourage my buyers to look at homes with subject to sale offer in place, but at the same time, there's a long conversation like what we're having right now, where we want everyone to understand the nuances. And these things can be domino, as Jane mentioned. There's a daisy chain effect. You could have your home listed for sale. You accept an offer subject to sale of a home. So that's buyer B is listing buyer B's home for sale. That home goes up on market, and then buyer C comes along and says, I'll buy your home, but only if I can sell my home. And then you end up with this chain down the road of all of these subject to sales, and you're waiting for that last one to sell before it goes chunk, 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 and everything falls into place.
Dominoes.
Jen, did you want to say something?
Just from a financing standpoint, usually where I start is worst case scenario. So if client does need to sell their property, okay, well, here's what it would look like if your property doesn't sell. Can you afford to have both properties? And then, starting from basically worst case scenario and then moving up to best case scenario where the dates line up and everything works as it should.
And that's a
I
good
find
comment.
if it goes fast, a subject to sale offer can be a really powerful thing, because you're dialed in. And as a buyer agent, what I do for my buyers who want a property is I already have their place ready to go. It's literally like click, we're on the market and we're priced and we're ready to go.
That's really key, Jane, and it's really important because people who, and it's really dependent on the client. Everyone's so individual, but to really have them ready to go and have them understand how important it is that when they do find that right property, how the clock is running. And so getting someone to accept subject to sale is already a hurdle. But if you're able to say to them, look, we've already got the video, the photos, the media, it's all ready to go. And here it is, here's the package, and here's the property, and here's the price we're going to be listing at. It's a really saleable home. You're helping to have the people considering your offer understand that they will actually get to a sold sign on their lawn, as opposed to, hey, I'd like to buy your home. We've got to sell ours, but we don't have anything prepared yet. We'll probably be on market in a week or two. We're not really too sure on price. No agent's going to come to the seller's agent and say that, but it's
where the issue lies is when the buyer agent for buyer A lists a property too high. Yes. And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And they're optimistic in a market. Like this happened in one of my properties where we had a condo listed too high, and then the rules changed, and it was like, oh my God. And the person wasn't agile enough to change the price of the condo, and so they just missed the markets, and then they chase the market down. It can be really painful, but there is a time and a place for everything. It all depends on how aggressive you are, I guess.
I think I use an analogy, and going a little off track here, but when we are listing a home for sale or looking to buy a home, any of these things, we have a project in mind, we have a destination in mind. It's kind of like a transatlantic flight. And the pilot, you're the pilot, actually, let's say your seller's the pilot, you're the co-pilot, whatever it is. But you guys, your destination is to get to sold. But if you start off going in the wrong direction right off the bat, it's really important to make a course correction. And if you find yourself getting into some headwinds because the market has changed, again, make a course correction. And you always want to be pointing towards sold. That's your destination. But if you're not making those corrections soon enough, you're going further and further and further off course.
Yeah. So that being said, we accepted a subject to sale offer on one of our listings, and I went over and talked with the agent about, and that was one of the sort of terms of the seller, that I go over there and actually see the place and what it's being listed at, whether or not we accept it. So that can be a key to keeping things on track.
This is the thing, we deal a lot with contracts, but there's a human element to this, and just the conversation and the understanding, and really, and doing that work, like going over and looking at that home, can be really useful to illustrating what's actually happening.
Jen?
I do like, Jane, what you said too about the questions you're asking the other agent behind the scenes and all that extra work. That's an experienced realtor that is so important.
It's easy for another realtor who wants to have their client's offer accepted to offer you the world, and you need to ask really good questions to understand the deeper meaning of what's going on there.
Yeah.
Which can lead to the success of the whole transaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes sense.
So I actually recently had a conversation with a client. We've had some back and forth, and we determined, because I've had them talking to their lender, that they can't afford to buy a home without having their home sold. They need to use the equity from their home to buy another home. And they're going to be traveling and so on and so forth. And just based on the market, where it's at and so forth, and I don't feel like, I know that sometimes a subject to sale offer does fly. I don't feel like the market is so much a buyer's market that subject to sale is the best avenue. So my recommendation was, let's get your home on market and sold, have a long closing date. And that's going to be the best way to make sure that you're in a position of power when you're negotiating your purchase, that you're not under the gun to get your home sold. Because when you are doing subject to sale, you're in two negatives there. You're first of all, the seller is not going to be probably as negotiable on price, because they are not seeing it as so close to sale. And then secondly, once your home is on market, you're under the gun to get your home sold, so you're under more pressure to get it sold, so you're probably going to be more soft on price.
Yeah.
So I find that the better in the market, I think, as it is right now, I think we're still, unless, except for some special cases, best to do not subject to sale. But that really, really depends, folks. If you're going to sell your home first, if you want to make sure that there's enough inventory out there of properties you would consider purchasing after your home is sold. If you're just waiting for that one of, then the subject to sale is probably the better way to do it.
Yeah, and as a seller, it's a good idea to take a subject to sale, because you know what the sale price is going to be. But this is the buyer assuming that their house is going to sell for a certain amount. And so if they don't get that amount, that's when the transaction can fall apart as well. So you have to be really careful about how you're pricing your home.
I've seen this successful in a couple of scenarios, and this has happened a couple of times in my career, where we have made an offer subject to sale and negotiated a price, and that property has been on. We've been waiting to get our client's property sold, and then an offer comes in that is lower than they had anticipated and lower than they had calculated on working for them. The only way to make that work would be if the purchase price on their purchase was lower. So there's nothing wrong, folks. It's not great for the seller to experience, but there's nothing wrong with going back to that first seller and saying, hey, look, we're considering an offer. Would you consider an alteration in the price if we were to work with this offer? And and then sometimes you can get it, because the tide rises and lowers all boats. And if you're not if the market has come down since you made your offer initially, the seller is going to be aware of that as well, and they may realize that if you're not the end buyer for this, they're going to be getting actual less money, even if they drop their price. It'll still be less money for them. If they were.
Yeah, and another secret is, as a listing agent, you can lower the price of your listing as you have the subject to sale. So you can negotiate other offers as a backup. You're still encouraging them. And as a listing agent, if the accepted offer for the backup is lower than what your current listing is, you can reduce the price to that. Like, there's lots of sort of tricks of the trade. I don't usually do that, but I have seen it done.
I find it, and that's the other side of it too, from a subject to sale offer perspective. When you're making an offer as a buyer with a home that you have to sell, subject to sale on another home, obviously you want to pay as little as possible. But the problem with paying as little as possible is you get a good deal on that. The seller will reduce their price to entice other buyers to come in. You're going to get your offer bumped. If you're offering enough of a gap between the actual value of that home or what a regular buyer might pay for it, then any other buyer coming in to negotiate on that to bump you may have to pay a premium as well in order to get that acceptance. So you want enough of an incentive for the seller to not want to work with other buyers.
Yeah, which is why you have to offer consideration to the seller, which means close to asking price if it's subject to sale. You're paying a premium to purchase this property rather than getting your home sold and then coming back. It can cost you money either way.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about our listings here. What do we have? Anything new and exciting coming up, Andrew?
Nothing on the radar right now. Josh is listing a little bachelor. Looks like Josh is going to be listing a little bachelor heritage conversion in Esquimalt. I don't know all the details. It looks like it'll be sub 400,000. And so 400,000 or maybe just under, and in a heritage conversion or character conversion. So can get more details if anyone has interest. I think that was just getting signed up in the next day or two.
Okay, well, we have good news. We just sold Holly Place up in Ladysmith. We got full ask for that. And we just sold a condo on Fiskard, which was what he paid for it a couple of years ago. And we also got full ask for that. Interestingly, the buyer agent did something smart. They came in under asking one day on the market, which made the seller not feel like they listed too low. And what else?
I can backfire, but it is true. You offer full price first day on market, and the seller is going, "Oh, maybe I underpriced."
Yeah. We also have just reduced the price and relisted Walfred 989 Walfred. We're now at 754. That's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath townhome, sort of half duplex at Walfred and Happy Valley Roads, within walking distance to Happy Valley Elementary, which I think is a great community. And we just reduced the price of our listing at 3822 Trailhead. That's in Jordan River. And that's down at 574,900. That's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 900 square feet. It's right around the corner from the Cold Shoulder Cafe. So, and we're going to be relisting 306B Vancouver, which is a character conversion. It's a 1-bedroom. It's a really nice 700 square feet. It's right on Vancouver at Oliphant. So right by Cook Street Village, if you're looking for a really nice condo with a garden and parking. So that'll be announced next week. So
Price point on that?
right now it's at $665.
Okay. All right.
Alrighty. Okay, you guys. So don't forget, we're on every Thursday at 9:30. We are the Victoria Real Estate Show. Andrew, how do people get in touch with you?
Yep, I'm at 250-360-6106. You can email me info@andrewplank.com. I'm on Instagram under Plank Andrew, and yeah, just reach out. I'm happy to chat and talk. Jen?
I am at 250-217-4925. My email address, j.low@dominionlending.ca, and website, jenlow.ca.
All right. And I'm Jane Johnston. I'm with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. My website is briarhillgroup.com. You can reach me at briarhillgroup@gmail.com. My phone number is 250-744-0775. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Briar Hill Group or Realty Teacher _Remax_Victoria. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Love you both.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Jen. See you guys
Share
later.
this with your friends. Bye.
Bye.